So, the Nike ZOOMFLY 5. From what I was led to believe, it's clearly been incorrectly named, and not a lot of people seem to like it. Well, I've got to disagree. I think it's great. Let's get to the review. Ed Superfly Bud here. Thanks for tuning in, it's always appreciated. Help the channel out by hitting that subscribe button, but also clicking the bell below for notifications when I launch the new videos for you. You can also help us out too by giving this video a thumbs up like and sharing it with your running buddies. Hit us with a super thanks as well. You know it makes sense. So we got the Nike ZOOMFLY 5 here in hand. I've got to be honest, in the camera it looks even better than it does in hand. No discernible smell, which is a bit disappointing. So is this a ZOOMFLY imposter or a really great high tempo shoe? We're going to find out. It's a bit on the hefty side, 339 grams in my UK size 11. So that's 11.9 ounces for a US size 12. Do you see what I did there? This high tempo beastie comes in about 6 grams lighter than the Invincible Run Flyknit 2, and it retails for 145 Earth credits over here in the UK. So that means it's about 43p per gram. I approximate a midsole stack in the heel of 47mm here using my primitive machinery. I haven't just measured it on the outside as well, I'm not that stupid, alright. Okay, let's get to the review. The truth switch is firmly in the on position today. I'm really going to let rip later on, so stay tuned. We will start with the beautiful upper first. So very thin mesh here on the ZOOMFLY 5, really enjoying it in the hot and humid weather here in the UK right now. The laces are somewhat long, I suppose, but I kind of like that because it means I can use a runner's knot and you can get a really good lock over the top of the foot here without even any sort of effort at all. Barely an inconvenience to get a good lockdown. And one thing I do like as well is that the upper doesn't sort of pull in too tightly here and sort of bunch up. There's none of that. They seem to have improved to the actual upper fit from the ZOOMFLY 4. The upper has many elements of other workable Nike offerings, including the Terrakiga 8, and I really like the low profile of the shoe around the heel area. It's not getting in the way of my Achilles. It feels like I've got a lot of mobility there. Certainly one of the better uppers of recent ZOOMFLY releases. There's none of that weird wetsuit neoprene stuff here. Tongue padding is perfectly positioned to give you potential protection from problem lace tension. You got some relatively thick overlays on the medial and lateral sides of the shoe. They're quite flexible though, they don't feel as if they're stopping the upper material from moving around and sort of folding over. There's a slight kitchen scouring pad feel about the tongue, but it's not something your foot's ever going to come into contact with really directly, unless you're one of these people that don't wear socks with your running shoes. I hear that there is some support groups for that. I've got to be honest, I really do prefer this upper over the one that's on the Invincible Run Flyknit 2, just less bulky and overbuilt. I have to say I found it very comfortable, really enjoying the profile. Heel lockdown was just sensational, really felt locked into the shoe, a little bit like when you're going to get on one of those huge roller coasters that you can go on and you're kind of hoping that you're going to make it out on the other side. I'd suggest it's as true to size as you're probably going to get in a Nike shoe. Nice bit of toe box room here if that's what you like. No major issues for me. I'll give it a 2.8 out of 3 for the upper after my initial runs. Midsole now. So a few people are a bit perplexed by this midsole, but I think it's one that is a little bit like pizza dough. You've got to keep kneading it a little bit and it soon starts to soften up once you've got some more fast miles into it. I don't think this is a shoe that you're going to want to utilise if you're just sort of going out ambling around here and there. It's a shoe that feels really good for me at pace. So I'm getting up to about 7 minutes 30 per mile through to about 6 minutes 20 per mile. That's where it really sings. It's kind of like some amplifier and guitar combinations. You need to crank them up a little bit to get the best out of them. That's exactly what the ZOOMFLY 5 feels like to me. Yes, that carrier foam and the recycled ZOOMX scraps that we have within the midsole do add a little bit of heft and weight to the shoe, as does the crushed up ZOOMX insole that we get within the ZOOMFLY 5. I did have to remove mine and reposition them. They seemed slightly poorly positioned, I suppose. The orientation wasn't quite right, but once I got that, the shoe's been great underfoot. Now, why ZOOMX offcuts have been used within this shoe rather than sort of virgin brand new ZOOMX foam? I do not know. It seems a bit of a missed opportunity to me. Nike have got the Nike Air sort of window here so you can see the ZOOMX foam inside and the factory floor offcuts that you've paid for. That SR02 foam I really enjoyed in the Vomero 16. That had an inner core of fresh ZOOMX foam, so I just wish they'd kind of done that with this shoe, but then I guess it would be a little bit too close to a Vaporfly. A lot of viewers have suggested that the midsole looks huge. It's actually cupped quite a bit around the foot, so not all of that stuff is underfoot. Now, there is some type of plate in here. You can definitely feel it on toe off. I would suggest it is a carbon plate. I don't think there's a nylon plate in this shoe. I could be wrong. I'm just telling you how it feels where I've been running faster at pace as intended with this shoe. If you're after an extremely cushioned, squashy, forgiving ride, I don't think that this shoe is the one you want. Go for the Invincible run if you're going to do some slower miles, longer miles. To me, this is more a pace shoe. So you're going to use it for your tempo runs. You can use it for some repeat sessions. I'd love to take this one out on a faster, long run. In fact, I'll probably do that on Sunday of this week. Slight rant here. I think some people want every single shoe to be incredibly squashy, compressive, and forgiving like that. I don't think that's going to do our running any good. Yes, those shoes are there for when we need them, but not every shoe is going to be a Vaporfly. If you're going to set a benchmark there and say, well, it's not as light as the Vaporfly, it's not as propulsive as the Vaporfly, you're just going to end up being disappointed every single time, aren't you? I don't always want to pick up an Ibanez guitar that's like really light and incredibly well set up, because it's just the same guitar every time. Sometimes I like something a bit more hefty, like a Les Paul or a Gretsch or something, so I get some different sounds, some different feelings and sensations. It's kind of what I'm feeling here. It's a different sensation. It's perhaps not for everybody, and not everybody's going to want to run at the paces and the distances that I've been with this shoe. As such, I think it's got to be looked at for a purpose and what you're going to use it for, what you might get out of it. Is it actually enjoyable to run in? And yes, I found it very enjoyable so far. And it's getting better and better. A little bit like a guitar. The more you play it, the better it sounds, the better it feels. That's how this shoe feels to me. I wouldn't suggest it's a ZOOMX performance offering. I don't really think that that's what the intended use case is. As a training tool though, I can see myself reaching for this one time and time again, because it's starting to soften up in that midsole. The more and more I work it, the better it feels. Which is exactly what I felt about the Vomero 16. The more I used it, the better and better it felt. To a certain extent, that was also the case for some of the Adidas Adizero models as well that featured Light Strike and Light Strike Pro. On foot, I found it really versatile, doing some 2 minutes on, 1 minute off sessions. I was hitting well below half marathon pace on some of those, and I was having a great time. Certainly a more responsive shoe than the Invincible run, and there's a lot less toe flex here, so you can really get a nice push off. Feels propulsive. Sometimes in the Invincible run you can feel as if you're sort of falling into the shoe. That isn't so much the case here, but it still feels nice and cushioned and forgiving, certainly in the heel. Firm but smooth and a really nice buttery ride. Perhaps more so actually than the Speed 3. I know some people find the Endorphin Speed line a little bit unstable perhaps. I don't think you'll find that in the ZOOMFLY 5. There's a nice bit of width here in the midfoot and in the heel. Nowhere near as clunky as something like the Boston 10, and I found it quite usable straight out the box, although it's getting better and better. It's getting softer. Yeah, the shoe is a bit heavier than perhaps I'd like, but I'm really enjoying it at the moment. Could be ideal for some of those longer distance sessions where you want to throw in some faster pace miles. Yes, there's certainly lighter options out there, but it appears that those with the stability of this shoe and perhaps the cushion that you've got on offer are fewer and farther between than you'd realise. A very good lesson here not to judge the shoe by the first initial couple of miles. I'll give this a 2.6 out of 3 for the midsole so far. Outsole now, and it's a good one too. It's darn good. Very simple stuff here, guys. We got 2 rubber sections in the mid to forefoot and in the heel. There is some exposed material here from the midsole, and that is starting to take a little bit of wear. There's a bit of abrasion there, and there's a few small holes and everything, but yeah, it's a shoe, for crying out loud. You know, if you're worried about taking your shoes out and them getting gouged by rocks and things, just keep them indoors. You know, don't wear them. Just, you know, take them out of the box and look at them occasionally, because, you know, then they'll be safe, won't they? Nothing will happen to them then. They'll stay perfect forever. The rubber fins here are numerous and traction is superb. I really find it great on bends and curves. You can really dig into the ground and get around them, and it seems to be working really nicely in the hotter weather that we've got right now in the UK. I've run on some grass with this shoe as well, and it felt really nice on there. It's just tons of grip. How this rubber holds up over time though, well, we shall find out over the coming miles. I have noticed some of the Nike rubber to be wearing down a little bit faster perhaps than some of the previous models. No major concerns here for me though thus far, apart from that plastic window I suppose. What happens if that gets damaged or we get a rock go through there? Is it going to get directly to the ZOOMX crushed up material in there? Surely carving out a little bit of the exposed midsole material here could have saved some weight. Perhaps that's something they'll do in the ZOOMFLY 6. Could have made it a little bit more nimble. Just seems like, again, like a bit of a missed opportunity there. Nike road shoes do tend to be on point rubber wise, and this one is no different. It's just that exposed midsole that I'm worried about here in the ZOOMFLY 5. I'll give it a 2.7 out of 3 for the outsole after my initial runs. Very tasty. Value now. So this one's coming in at 145 Earth credits, a little bit cheaper than the Saucony Endorphin Speed 3. That's the option a lot of people will be looking at there. That shoe is much softer. Gotta be honest though, at speed I prefer this one. I mean, the mass here isn't hugely different to the Boston 10. Again, I prefer this shoe over the Adidas model. I think if you're after an option you can race and train in, then this shoe probably isn't going to be for you. There's just too much mass there. It's very stable though, and a superb smooth training option for me. If roads and pavement are your bag, then this one will deliver. And a much improved upper over the ZOOMFLY 3 and 4. Don't expect a full-on ZOOMX ride here. This is no Vaporfly, and it's only got the word fly in it as well, so it's not the same. Nike suggests that 20% of the weight here is recycled material. So that's like 68 grams of this shoe is made of recycled stuff. Does make you wonder what it would have been like if there was fresh ZOOMX foam in that midsole. Maybe it would have been a bit more expensive. So certainly gone down a sort of durable daily sort of use case here rather than a performance option. Of course, if it was fresh ZOOMX foam, there'd be no glue holding it all together, so it might have made it even lighter. Either way, it is what it is, and I really like it so far. Though it is a shoe, sadly, many will overlook due to the weight. I think perhaps if you have a much smaller sized foot, that weight issue isn't going to be so much of a problem. I think if you're up in the size 13s or whatever, it may be that the shoe's just overly heavy for your feet. I'm going to give it a 2.5 out of 3 for value so far after my initial runs. Many will overlook it though because they want something they can race and train in. If I've totaled the scores up correctly, that gives us a 10.6 out of 12 after my initial runs for the Nike ZOOMFLY 5. Absolutely my favourite since the ZOOMFLY Flynet, that's for sure. Have you picked up this shoe? What have you made of it? Some viewers are suggesting it's a bit of a Marmite shoe. I haven't spreaded any on toast yet to confirm that. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. Musical interlude time. It's quite nice when the summer comes around. I can sort of watch things perhaps I don't get the opportunity to during the course of the year. Pace of life just sort of drops a little bit, and I got some additional hours and some spare time at last. I have filled it watching Greendale by Neil Young and Crazy Horse. It's a very bizarre film. I think Neil Young came up with this story which was told over the course of about 10 songs, and the band kind of played the music along to some of the footage that he'd already recorded. There's some fantastic tracks on here. Some of them are sort of bluesy riffs which kind of meander round and round, but there's a couple that cut to the chase. One such track is The Beautiful Bandit. It's got one of the most memorable Neil Young choruses that I can ever remember. Neil Young sings in a more gruff voice during the verses and then kind of elevates things up during the chorus. The line that really gets you and makes your hair stand on end. He says, "One day you'll find everything you're looking for." It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. I often think of Neil Young as a bit of a painter, really, creating these different images, different atmospheres for us to look at, and then he puts them out there and moves on to the next thing. Go and check this one out. Even better if you can find the live performance that they did with a load of actors and dancers and stuff. It's even better. Green Dale by Neil Young and Crazy Horse. Thanks for tuning in, people. It is always appreciated. Help support the channel by hitting us with a super thanks, perhaps if you've got a question that you want to get directly to me. Hit that subscribe button and click the bell below for notifications. Don't forget to also give this video a thumbs up, like, and share it with your running buddies. My name's Eddbud, and I'll be seeing you